Welcome to the Get It Done podcast, where you'll find me, Bradley Simmons, weight loss and fitness expert, chatting to other experts on why health is the key to success. If you haven't heard of our 5 pillars that get it done, they are mental, physical, emotional, social, and financial health. This podcast is going to help you build your 5 pillars, and therefore is going to build your success and, most importantly, your happiness. Let's get it done. So Jess, it's amazing to have you on the Get It Done podcast. How are you? How's things?
I'm really good, thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
It's great. And do you know what I love about yourself? Obviously, you're a nutritionist, but you've got your niche, and it's all about hormones. And I think hormones play a massive role in how we feel, and exercise and nutrition. Everyone thinks about aesthetics, right?
Yeah.
But having your hormones is most importantly how you feel.
Exactly.
And if you feel good, then you can focus on your aesthetics, right? Rather than focusing on your aesthetics to make you feel good.
Exactly.
So I want to pick your brain. I want to learn, as I always do with these podcast episodes. So talk to me, what made you become a nutritionist in the first place?
So to go back to my 20s, I was, when I think back to it, I really feel like the best way to describe my, like how I was living and how I felt at the time was that I was living in fight or flight.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that at the time. It was only when I kind of like delved into my health and I basically realised I had PCOS and I had an underactive thyroid, so polycystic ovarian syndrome.
Yeah, wow.
And I had basically quite a lot of things going on.
Someone looking at you now, you wouldn't think that. You know what I mean? You wouldn't think that at all because
you.
you're in great shape. You physically look amazing. So
I mean, I'm nearly 30. I'm 35 next week. So
wow,
there's been a lot of kind of like healing work going on and regulating my hormones basically and balancing my hormones. But yeah, during that time, I'd basically started a PR company and my business was literally everything to me. It's like I was living and breathing it. My health was just so far down on my list of priorities that I was almost like, I just didn't even really think about it.
So many people can relate to that. Do you know what I mean? You focus on your business, next minute your cortisol levels, you're not sleeping, they're so high. And that, as you know, it affects everything, right?
Everything. And hormones really do impact everything. You know, they're chemical messages that basically are secreted from our endocrine glands and they basically run around our body telling our tissues and our organs what to do. So that impacts everything from our metabolism to our energy levels, our mood, our fertility, our skin. You know, so much is impacted by hormones, but I didn't even realise that at the time. I was just doing my thing, I was working. Being successful was like my biggest goal. So just everything else was kind of like...
So when did you make that decision to potentially stop focusing on like the business side of things and maybe become a nutritionist?
Basically, what happened was, so when my husband and I were thinking about starting a family, it wasn't happening. And you know, like when in your head, you're like...
Look, so many people can relate to that now, honestly.
And you know, like in your head, you've got this like timeline of like when things are going to happen.
Yeah, of course.
And I think, especially as a woman, when you think about fertility and that kind of thing, you just think, okay, at this point, this is going to happen. And of course, things never...
And how old were you when you tried to start like having a baby?
So that was about, I think I was about 26 at the time when I was thinking about it.
It's quite young, right?
Yeah.
Where fertility seems to be a bit more smooth.
Exactly. And also my mum had a lot of problems conceiving, and I think I held this anxiety over it from the beginning, almost like going into it in this like stressed, upregulated state. I think didn't help.
That can cause problems, right? So if you're stressed about conceiving, it's going to make things harder.
Exactly.
So what was the best thing you did to try and just relax?
So what happened was I kind of investigated things. I went to see a gynecologist. She was amazing. She really looked after me. Did loads of like blood work, like blood tests and stuff. She did some scans, and basically that's at that point I realised I had PCOS.
Okay.
And then everything kind of made sense to me. And then also I had my underactive
For people that don't know what
thyroid.
PCOS, can you just give a quick description?
Polycystic ovarian syndrome is one of the most common endocrine conditions and hormonal imbalance kind of conditions. It actually impacts 1 in 10 women.
Wow,
so
that's a lot.
Yeah, it's really common, and a lot of people don't know they have it, which is obviously what happened to me. So then when I realised I had it, I kind of went on this whole, like, I just deep dived into like the world of natural health and healing, and basically using food as medicine to heal my body of PCOS. And
food is medicine, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay.
And I can't explain to you how much it just transformed my health.
So talk to me, when you found out you had PCOS, what was your lifestyle then, like nutrition-wise, exercise-wise, alcohol-wise? What was your lifestyle like?
So it was when I think back to that time, I think it's literally, I don't even recognise myself. So I was like skipping meals. I was like I'd wake up and have like coffee after coffee. I would, instead of having lunch, I'd have like a banana and a coffee, or like some nuts and some like steamed broccoli, that kind of thing. I basically just the only thing I really cared about, other than my business being successful, was that I wanted to be skinny. Like I'd admit it. That's how I felt at the time.
It's good that you can admit it, you can identify it, because we know your hormones need fats in your diet, right?
100%.
Proteins, carbs,
So
all the macronutrient split. You need a good, healthy. Well, first of all, you need to have the right amount of calories for your system, your whole body to work, your cognitive function, your gut microbiome, everything, but also that macronutrient split. And I'm massive on that. When I say to my clients, I want you to transform, but not just because of your physical appearance, but also for your mental well-being, your cognitive function, because you're going to just be a much healthier person.
I love that approach.
Yeah.
And it is so important. And it just didn't even come into my head at that point. And then when I started making changes and actually eating properly, like eating protein in the morning, actually having breakfast instead of skipping it, I didn't understand that, our cortisol is highest in the morning. It's what gets us out of bed. It motivates us. And I was, instead of blunting it with protein, I was amplifying it and raising it by putting caffeine in my system and not eating, and then going to the gym.
Well, this is it. And I feel like the male body can deal with that a lot better than a woman body, from obviously studies and recent studies. Like women that intermittent fast, do high intensity training sessions, it's not good for your hormones at all. Men can slightly get away with it a little bit more. And obviously some women out there say, no, it works for me, which is great.
Yeah.
But from the recent studies, it shows that it's not that effective. Better for women is resistance training and low intensity cardio, high protein, good fats, good fiber in your diet.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I also think the importance of regulating your nervous system and soothing your nervous system is something that I think people are obviously understanding that now, but back then it just wasn't a thing. If someone said to you, regulate your nervous system, you'd be like, what do you even mean by that?
You sound spiritual, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But now it's just common knowledge, and it's language that we all use.
Well, how do people like make their nervous system nice and relaxed? Is it, I guess, what is it, just to prevent cortisol levels, so how you eat and how you move?
It's that, and it's also for everything I do it's like a holistic 360 approach. So I'm thinking not just about nutrition, I'm thinking about movement, I'm thinking about things like sleep, and obviously it all comes into play when we're thinking about hormone balance. Yeah,
like I've got you as an expert coming on. We've had a sleep expert, we've had a gut health expert, and it all just comes together, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it's like perfect, well, not perfect synergy,
but it's easier said than done, because people will say, well, my lifestyle's this, I can't do it, I've got 3 kids, I've got a job as well, But there's always things you can do to change your lifestyle slightly that make beneficial. Like meal prepping is key, cooking from scratch, whole foods. Instead of going to, I don't know, the coffee shop and sit down and have a coffee, walk with your coffee. There's so many things you can do to improve. Little hacks, for sure. I also think that it does come down to mindset in the beginning. I think you have to do the work in terms of like getting your head in the right headspace and understanding, like, how do you want to feel? Like, what do you want to get out of this? Like when I work with clients one-to-one, and that's one of the first questions I ask them, like, what is it that you want from this? Like, I want to get you from A to B, but what can we do in a sustainable way? Like, this isn't like a diet or a detox. This is for sustainable changes, sustainable change in your life. Just a quick question regarding back to PCOS. Like, did you make your symptoms a lot worse simply just because of your lifestyle?
Yeah, 100%. I was like driving my symptoms so badly that and obviously at the time I didn't realise, but I was drinking so much caffeine. I wasn't sleeping. The blue lights in the evening, it disrupts your melatonin production. There were so many things, but I think the key thing was I was undernourishing. So I feel like I was undernourishing, over-exercising, and because I could never lose weight around my tummy area, and it was all to do with my PCOS and the way my body was using insulin, but I obviously didn't know that at the time. So
you were you were then thinking, well, to get rid of this, I need to eat less.
Exactly, and it was all like backwards and like the wrong way around. But this is why I'm so passionate about empowering women to understand their cycles and understand their bodies.
Well, sometimes I don't even think it's empowering. I think it's just education.
Yeah, but
because without the education, you're not going to know these things.
Exactly, and also I feel like that's such a good point, because education, I think, is the thing that has been lacking from the beginning. A big passion of mine is to be able to like go into schools or to teach younger women from the beginning, because I think if you get it from the beginning, then you have such a better chance of laying those foundations. Back at school, I look
at some of the subjects we were doing, and of course things are key about like PHSE, for example. It's like, what were we learning in that class? If you had a nutritionist come in once a month and talk to the kids about women's health, because men need to learn about women's health too. I've had many girlfriends, and I've probably learnt from my girlfriends about
Yeah.
obviously menstrual cycle and stuff, and then obviously being an online coach, I have to do a lot of research. My mum helped me dive into menopause, for example. So I've learned a lot from my experiences. But from a young age, if we were just told about these, so it wasn't like a shock horror.
Yeah, exactly.
Or if a 14 or 13-year-old girl was taught about PCOS and it can be caused by not eating, then straight away they're gonna be like, well, I need to eat, I need to nourish my body, and the importance for my hair, my skin, which all young girls want.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, like when we think about beauty, like
Yeah.
like skin, like I always had hormonal acne. So the two
Yeah.
things I had was I could never lose weight around my
Okay.
tummy, and I had like breakouts around my chin area. And so like I did it back then. I was just like, what? And my hair would
Yeah.
also never grow. I'd be obsessed with having hair extensions because my hair would never grow. And it was like when I started healing my body through food, using
Yeah.
food as medicine, and actually working with my
Yeah.
body instead of working against it, like I was
Yeah.
doing for so many years, everything started falling into place.
Yeah.
And then I was like, how incredible is this? That actually something that everyone has access to. We all have to eat every single day.
Of course.
So to be able to actually know which foods are
Yeah.
going to be able to, in a very simplistic way, it doesn't need to be complicated.
It's true.
But you,
Yeah, because you look back at school now, like my mates, lads who had acne, were the ones who had bonbons in their left pocket, had Red Bull in their right pocket. Do you know what I mean? We skip lunch, so they had money to go to the chippy after lunch and after school and get sausage and chips. I was wondering why you had bloody acne,
Yeah,
because you weren't looking
it all
after your gut
makes sense.
microbiome. Do you understand? And it all makes sense now. I was very fortunate. My mum was always vegetables, protein, and then a carb on the side. That we were very fortunate with
Yeah.
mum that really. But of course, some kids just don't have that.
No, exactly. It's about making it easy
Yeah.
to understand and accessible,
Yeah.
I guess, and not.
And
not
I guess those young
overcomplicated.
girls who've got hormonal acne, what they're going to do? They don't understand why they're going to put Clearasil on their face.
Yeah.
They're actually fixing them.
Treating it from within.
Exactly.
Yeah, and also like not just putting a plaster over it,
Yeah.
and not being like sucked into the latest like faddy marketing campaign
Yeah.
for like a skincare or a supplement.
Or cover their face in makeup.
Exactly, which just clogs
Cheap
the pores
makeup
and
as well.
makes it
'Cause when you're younger, you can't afford good
Yeah.
makeup, can you?
And then there's also like all the endocrine disruptors, like the toxins in products and
Yeah.
makeup in household. You know, like even like drinking water out of plastic and how the microplastic leach into the water. And
I've seen
then
this.
if you've got hormonal imbalances, that just is another thing. It seems
Yeah.
quite minor, but actually all of these tiny little things accumulate
Yeah.
and then drive imbalances like PCOS,
Wow.
even more so.
Did you know that 1 in 5 have a gym membership but don't actually go? If you're listening and that sounds all too familiar, I have the solution. Get It Done, my wellness app, provides you with the choice between personalized gym guides, Goal Pacific guides, and hundreds of home workouts. You'll also get exclusive access to our community events and retreats. So whether it's time to cancel your gym membership and work out at home, or bring some structure and success to your gym schedule, the GID app can do just that for £18.99 a month. Not only that, we provide recipes and nutritional guidance so you can partner your workout regime with the right meal plans for optimal results. Life's too short to pay for a gym membership you're not using. It's time to get it done. Yeah, and even like testosterone levels, right? Because obviously women don't tend to know this. They've in parts of the month they got more testosterone than estrogen.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're like, oh my god,
I love it.
didn't know
I
that.
love it. You know that.
And obviously the three main hormones for women are obviously progesterone, estrogen, and obviously testosterone. But with women, you just think estrogen,
Yeah.
right? And of course, when you get older, estrogen levels drop, which means your bone density drops and your muscle fibers drop. And I always say, before that happens, get yourself in great physical shape now. It's just so then you can have a lifestyle where you can counteract that anti-aging.
It's
Because
like,
it happens.
It's like getting ahead of it, because
Yeah.
these changes are inevitable.
Yeah.
Like I call it the life cycle of hormones,
Yeah.
because it's inevitable that our hormones will change. They will go up and
Yeah.
down. They'll fluctuate throughout key times of our lives. Like obviously puberty, where there's like a massive surge in sex hormones,
Yeah.
and then they're finding their balance. And then times like pregnancy,
Yeah.
when you're trying to obviously maintain
course.
your pregnancy, your nourish
Yeah.
the fetus, etc. And then prepare for birth, and then you've got perimenopause and menopause. Like there's such times in our life that we need
well,
to
let's talk
step
about
it
that,
up.
because it's a touchy subject with women wanting to have babies a bit later now, because obviously society's changed, right? You got women like obviously focusing on their career, which they should do, which is brilliant. But then they, especially in London, they're like, okay, I need to find a partner, and then about
Yeah.
32, 33, and then it's panic mode because they haven't found the right partner, or they're dating someone who hasn't worked out. And I've got a lot of friends who are my age who are in that I guess that bracket where they're a bit worried, and like you said, that stress at the top of that can really struggle. Would you say is it more riskier for women to try and have babies a bit later?
I would say that just from research, like looking at the research, it is from like a scientific standpoint, it is, I don't want to say the word better because obviously so many things come into consideration,
yeah.
like obviously careers, like you said already, you already touched on. So it has to feel right and has to be right for you at the time of life you're in the season that you're in. But I think that the research shows from the age of 35, fertility declines. So before that point, but then saying that, you know, I've got so many friends that are having babies later on. I'm nearly 35, you know, so we would love to have another baby at some point. And so I think it kind of, I think basically it all boils down to, yes, that is true about fertility levels, but the more you can do to support your health and to nourish your body and for that to be a consistent part of your day-to-day life, instead of doing like, you know, like detoxes or really extreme things, I think it should come from everyday life.
Of course.
And
well, even from a male's perspective, like men think they're untouchable, where they can have babies when they're older. I'm like, try and have a baby when you're 40 and screaming baby, you're crying your eyes out. You might not have the energy like you would as a 30-year-old.
People don't think about that.
So it's not just a woman that need to think about it. Like, I got a lot of my mates like, nah, I'll probably get married a bit later, have kids at 40. For me, I want to be young. I always said I would be 28, 29. Obviously, I passed that now. I would still love to be a young dad because at age of 40, I want a 10-year-old playing football with, for example. So I'm always in that mindset. And then men, look, our testosterone levels drop. And we know in today's world, compared to 30 years ago, testosterone levels are really low in men, simply because the stresses of society, financial pressure, financial stress is a lot higher. Diet, nutrition, drinking culture, lack of sleep.
The way that life is
it's just caused stressful, right? And men really need to focus on their testosterone level simply by better nutrition, better sleep, changing their environment, and just looking at the overall holistic health.
Definitely. I'm really this whole like. Sometimes I think it can almost sound a bit like fluffy around the edges, you know, when you say like 360 approach, like holistic health, but it really is. It's literally changed my life, and it's changed hundreds of women that I've worked with. And I've actually got a book coming out in January.
Amazing. Talk to me about the book.
It's called The Hormone Balance Handbook.
Nice.
And it's a women's health book, but it has recipes that support the different phases of the cycle.
Please talk me about that. Or educate me on the different cycle and nutrition on different parts of the cycle.
Okay. Let's start with that. So basically, the cycle, so we start from the menstrual phase of the cycle. So there's 4 phases of the cycle, and this applies to women who are cycling. Not everyone has a cycle. But so the beginning of your cycle is from day 1 of your period when you're actually bleeding. That's when the start of your actual cycle begins, and then so you're bleeding for 3 to 5 days. Obviously, it varies.
So iron needs
I'm giving you like this.
So in those 5 days, your iron levels need to be quite high, right?
Exactly. You're very knowledgeable. I feel like you know so much already.
Well, it's my job, right? It's my job.
So yeah, exactly. So things like iron, but not just from things like grass-fed meat, but also like things like cacao and lentils and beetroot and that kind of thing. But
spinach,
and the spinach and the leafy greens, and also magnesium can be really depleted at that time. And the magnesium you can get from things like leafy greens and avocados and stuff like that. But everything, there's so many different, so hormones are so low at that point that everything around that time is about warming your body from the inside out. So you see it from a Chinese medicine perspective, it's about treating it as like that would be like the winter of your cycle, like the winter season. So warming foods, herbs and spices. In terms of exercise, like
slow,
honouring
chilled.
rest, like walking, like movement if you feel up to it, but basically not pushing yourself because you don't have the energy.
No, of course. If you're going to try and do a high rocks session, just be prepared. It ain't going to be one of your best sessions.
And also, you're like pulling on your stores, your nutrient stores. So you're,
true.
And I always think there's a payback for everything. So even in that moment, if you're like I used to do in my 20s, I would just push myself to work out because I felt like this is my goal. I want to be able to lose weight or whatever. And I would do it regardless of what my body was telling me. But what I really want to get across to women is that we have the answers within us. We need to tap into that. We need to use our intuition to our advantage and be able to basically honour what our hormones are doing at the different points. So after the menstrual cycle, I won't go into too much detail because we'll be here all day.
No, it's good.
It will probably turn into a whole podcast. But then we go into the follicular phase. So this is when estrogen starts to rise and something called FSH, which is follicle stimulating hormone. So what's happening here is when estrogen is rising, we are feeling more confident and we have more energy. And then, so that's a really good time to bring in
libido goes up.
Yeah, libido goes up in the lead up to ovulation.
Yeah, of course it does.
So then that's a really good time to use your energy, you know, do the workouts, like push yourself a little bit more because you have the energy reserves. And then things like our digestive health, our digestion is much stronger at that point as well.
So what type of foods can you be consuming then?
So things like salads, like colder foods. So in the menstrual cycle, in the menstrual phase, it will be like warming, like curries and stews and soups and that kind of thing. Easiest foods that are much easier to digest. And then in the follicular phase, it will be like raw, more kind of like colder, rawer stuff, because our metabolism is slower at that point. And then it gets to ovulation, and that's when skin is usually plumper and glowier. And it's when we are like bursting with energy. Sometimes it can feel like you've got so much energy.
Little pink cheeks.
Yeah, exactly. And then after that is the phase that I think most people talk about, or they might not even realize it's a phase, because I'm like labeling it as the phases. But you know, when people talk about PMS and having like PMS symptoms, and that's when, so it's after ovulation, you then, if you have ovulated, which is the goal of every cycle, is to ovulate, because if you don't ovulate, you're not producing progesterone, and progesterone is really important for many reasons, but one reason, if you're thinking about mental health and things like anxiety,
it's the calming hormone, isn't it?
Say that again.
It helps you stay calm as well, doesn't
it?
Yeah,
exactly. It's literally, this is what I wrote in the book, it's literally the calming hormone. Progesterone is just so important.
So if you're not producing that from restricting your calories, you're just really going to struggle mentally.
That's why in that luteal phase, it's so important to be not doing things like fasting and cutting carbs, because actually your body is using so much more energy at that time. Obviously to produce your period, and your uterine lining will be shedding soon if you're not pregnant. So then things like the carbohydrates from complex carbs, things like sweet potatoes, things like squash or brown rice or quinoa, buckwheat, that kind of thing, actually adding a little bit more in meals during that time is really, really beneficial, instead of cutting it back and thinking like, basically, I need to eat how I'm going to eat every single day of the month.
This is it. And people need to get out of their head that carbs make you fat. They don't. What they do, unfortunately, do is hold on a little bit of water weight, which you should presume it's fat, but then get yourself in a steam room, sauna, go for a nice run, you can spell it out.
There's so many things that go so outside of the nutrition part of it, but the nutrition part of it, if you can get that right, I always think it's like a positive cascade of so many other habits, and you know, like you feel so much more motivated. Like if you make yourself a nourishing meal, you feel really amazing.
Afterwards, you feel good.
Yeah, and then it creates.
Whereas
like this.
If you eat at McDonald's or I don't know, like that fast food, it feels good in the moment because it tastes good, but you know after you feel terrible, and your gut is going, what the fuck have you given me?
Yeah, exactly. And it's so true.
Yeah. I would say about 90% of my clientele know exactly what they need to do with their physical health and their nutrition, but what they lack is accountability. And that's where I step in as an online coach. I give you your tailored program, your meal plan, and I give you that guidance and support throughout the whole journey to make sure that you get the results that you want and you progress to a stronger, healthier, resilient individual. So if you want to step things up and really improve the way you feel, the way you look, then my online coaching is for you. So if you want to receive 25% off my online coaching, simply click the link in the description of this podcast, complete the inquiry form and type transformation to make sure that you receive your 25% discount. I'll be in touch. We'll have a video call so I can understand a little bit more about yourself. I'll explain how my online coaching works, and then we'll get to work and we'll get it done. Life is too short not to feel at your very best.
And it's about actually just like I said before, like if women and men, if we can all just kind of eat more, it doesn't have to, it's not like the perfect science, it doesn't need to be perfect, but it's just about making more mindful choices and going the extra mile for yourself during, like when you can. So like I always say to my clients, you know, you have 3 meals in a day. That's 3 opportunities to nourish your body and to support your health.
Of course. And why wouldn't you? I don't understand. I don't understand. Like we say, like I had a conversation with my sister. People will spend money on their hair, their nails, their fake tan, but they won't actually pay money for food that actually makes you feel good to the point where you don't need to get your hair done all the time, you don't need to get your nails done all the time, you don't need to get fake tan, because you have that inner confidence rather than the outer confidence.
But I think it's because people don't if someone had said this to me in my early 20s, I wouldn't have absorbed the information and been able to action it, because I just couldn't understand. Those two things were like, there was like a missing link.
Of course.
And when you start actually feeling the benefits of it, and you can actually feel it in your body and you start really thriving from the inside out, it becomes almost like addictive in a really good way, because you want to continue that feeling of feeling really good. But I think that people in society, I think one of the big things is that people are aiming to, you know, like how people normalize symptoms. Like so many women say, oh yeah, PMS is normal, everyone has PMS. And that really aggravates me, because actually it's not normal to have severe PMS symptoms. It's not normal to have half of your cycle feeling rubbish and feeling like you've got no energy and you're in a bad mood and you're bloated and you like all these things, like your skin's bad. But that used to be me. I used to have half of my cycle like that. And when I started actually working with my body using food, and I started feeling amazing, I was just like, wow.
But this is where people need to come out their comfort zone or their environment. Like, for example, if you was to be on a pub on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday with 6 other lads and you're all complaining about the world, you're going to be like, I feel comfortable here because everyone else is feeling the same.
So true.
Right? Whereas if you step yourself out and go to a gym and people are fitter than you, stronger than you, eating healthier, and their financial health is much better, you're going to go, fuck, this is the self I need to be in. So sometimes if you listen to someone says PMS is normal, it's normal.
It just normalizes
body positive, it's amazing, you look great, It normalizes your actual, you're normalizing bad mental health or bad physical health.
Yeah.
And that is not the norm.
And poor choices.
Like bad choices. Yeah, exactly.
Poor health choices.
To step outside that comfort zone.
Exactly. Like challenge yourself. Like challenging yourself in a really nourishing way and taking small steps. I always think, you know that saying, I say it all the time on my Instagram, but positive habits breed positive habits.
Yeah.
It's so true. Like when you, like we just said, you do these small things, they stack up.
Yeah.
When you habit stack things, you know how you said about the coffee, instead of just sitting in the coffee shop, you could go for a walk. Like there's so many little things.
Well, I love the saying, it's very, like, if you're not changing, you're choosing.
I love that.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So if you're not changing, you're choosing. So in 6 months' time, you're still complaining to me about the same symptoms. I don't want to hear it. I got no sympathy for you because we spoke about this 6 months ago. So if you're not changing, you're choosing to be the way you are.
And also it's your choice, you know, it's like you get to make this choice. How lucky that you get to make a healthy choice.
Yeah.
Like that's actually a privilege.
Of course.
Not everyone has that privilege
true.
because of chronic health conditions. And, you know, I just think that when you start changing the narrative and actually realising that you are lucky that you get to go to the supermarket and pick healthy options, and that you can go home and cook them and nourish your body and feel better.
And where this conversation is going is like your hormonal imbalance or hormones is massively dictated by your lifestyle and your nutrition. So it's not really rocket science, is it?
Literally, it's not. It's really not. Which my kind of like standpoint in the like market or in the industry is to cut through the science, to cut through the hormonal science, and actually be able to deliver integratable, actionable ways that women can be able to benefit their hormonal health, and in doing so can benefit their entire health and well-being, because hormones literally influence every single body system and the way our bodies are able to function.
No, and of course, like I had Grace on my podcast. She was amazing. We was talking about a similar topic about the women's health and menstrual cycle and stuff. And it is crazy that only 6% of studies have been done on women's. Like,
I know, it's crazy. Like, and they're majority are based on
men, male. I'm not sure why that is. Maybe they were scared or they were worried about like ovaries or like birthing. I don't know why.
I feel like there's so many reasons that would be here all day.
Yeah, we're probably here all day. We won't get into it. It's another podcast. But it's incredible. But it's good that now there's more education out there. There's more studies being done. There's more investment done into women's health. So in the next 10 years, it's going to get even better.
It is really positive, but one thing I think is good to remember in terms of us being our own health advocates is that there's only 1% of global funding that goes into reproductive health, like looking into reproductive conditions. And so like I think knowing that I find that inspiring in terms of like our health is in our hands. Like it's up to us to make these changes. And like you said, you have to actually do it. Like you can't just say you're going to do it. You have to actually want to do it.
Course.
And so I really hope that my book helps women be able to kind of take control in a way that is easy to understand. Yeah. Like obviously everything is science backed and that's important.
No, of course. But you got to make it's got to be English.
Exactly.
Because I find, especially in my industry, there's many personal trainers out there who've got incredible degrees, right? They're sports and condition coaches. But when you talk to them or when they speak to the audience, it's like they're speaking Latin. Yeah. So you're going to lose people straight away.
People just literally zone out when they hear words that they don't understand.
So I learned from a very young age, it's like, yes, I've got the knowledge and understanding, but it's got to be easy to understand for me to grow my business, because the majority of people won't understand those crazy words.
Yeah, so
If
true.
I said to you, for example, okay, we need to work on an eccentric movement this morning, you'd be like, what the majority of people are like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
So you have to understand we need to work on the lowering phase movement. This puts more tension on the muscle, which helps it to grow. Straight away, you understand what I'm trying to talk about.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I guess with your book, you're just going to help people understand, make people go, okay, cool, I really understand this.
And actually, something in my book that I hadn't, one of the kind of like goals of my book that I've never seen in any other book. So I was like, when I found out I had PCOS and we were trying to, you know, fall pregnant, and I was trying to heal my body, etc. I was obviously reading everything. I was like making dinner, listening to a podcast, walking down the road, listening to an audio book on health. Like I was literally absorbing so much. I never ever in all of these years have found, as this is going back maybe I don't know how long, a long time, but I never found a book that actually treated the body in a like body system way in terms of like nourishing each body system. So each of my chapters is focused on how to nourish and support that body system in relation to hormonal health. Wow. So for example, there's gut and digestion, there's liver, there's the neuroendocrine system, which is your nervous system and your endocrine system, and how that.
But also I say like health is the key to success. And then when we had a nutritionist on like specialised in the gut, she goes, no, good gut health is the key to success.
Yeah, no, that is so true. Yeah, that is so true. And when it comes to hormonal health, 95% of our serotonin, which is our happy hormone, which regulates our mood and, you know, like how happy we feel, is produced in our gut. So that alone is, it just proves like how essential gut health is. But then also 50% of our dopamine, so our pleasure hormone, is also produced in the gut. And then when we think about estrogen, something called the estrobolone, I'm probably not pronouncing it correctly, but estrobolone, yeah. Have you heard about that?
No.
So it's basically like,
love it.
it's a type of bacteria that is produced in the gut that basically modulates and metabolizes our circulating estrogen. That basically means like it's the way that it's kind of like produced and how it's broken down. And so that impacts our overall estrogen levels. And high estrogen levels are at the root of so many different conditions. So things like PCOS, endometriosis, you know, like so many different things. So it's really, really important, and like mood swings and breast tenderness and all of these things. So it's really important that actually we do support, you know, the gut microbiome.
The best way to do that is a whole food nutritious diet.
And like pre and probiotics, like feeding the gut bugs.
High fibre foods.
Yeah, and the phytochemicals, they're the chemical compounds.
I guess just stay away from highly processed rubbish and alcohol.
Yeah, because all those things are just, I always think of it as either, I know it's not black and white, but just in my own head, I think of it as you're either putting food in there that is going to nourish the microbiome, help it to thrive, help those gut bugs to actually multiply and thrive, and then in doing so, you're going to benefit your whole health and your hormones, or you're putting food in there that is disrupting your gut lining and causing inflammation, and then things like leaky gut, where the gut wall, you know, separates and there's those toxins going in and out, and then that has a, is
another way to look at it. Like we've all been younger, and then your next door neighbour, they've got weeds and a horrible, like they haven't looked after their garden, right? And then you've looked after your garden, you've put nice flowers in, you've done, like mown the lawn, you've made it look lovely, right? That's like your gut.
So true.
Don't look after your gut. Your gut is going to look like that horrible garden where there's weeds everywhere, there's bugs, it's horrible.
And get out of control.
Or you take pride in your gut, and your garden is going to have nice sunflowers, it's going to have loads of wasps, it's gonna have bees,
exactly,
and it's gonna look good, and people want to be in there.
I literally wrote in my book, it's literally like I literally wrote the words gut garden and explained it just how you did, and I said about how if you nourish the soil, you're going to get these like beautiful plants growing, and like it is so true. And I think when you think of it in those simplistic terms like that, literally like the goodness that you put in, you will get back. Like it's and that goes for the whole of hormonal health. Like the more goodness that you can put into your body, the more your hormones are going to pay you back. And thinking about the word hormonal balance, it's like the more you can treat your body and your lifestyle in terms of like food, movement, sleep, you know, all of these things, the more your body is going to pay you back in balance.
Of course.
So being consistent, I think, is just so important with these things. There's no point doing like one thing and then.
So basically, you're saying here, like, good hormonal balance is the key to success. When it comes
everyone that comes in can just change it.
I love that. Good. But it's true. Like, let's talk about actual life in general. Like, so if you don't look after your well-being and you have a bad hormonal balance, then everything else is affected, right? Your relationships, your friendships, work, cognitive function, drive, ambition?
Something that I think actually is really important to talk about, if you don't mind, is mental health, because that is actually something out of all of the things like that I discovered in my, obviously I went after I delved into learning, I then studied for 4 years in nutrition, and then obviously got my qualifications. But so I feel like I have looked at it from all angles, but something that was a dramatic shift in my life was my mental health. So when going back to my early 20s, when I was so focused on my career and being successful, I had a really bad anxiety problem, but it was really quite debilitating at times. It would be like I'd walk down the high street and I'd have a panic attack if I bumped into someone I knew. Okay. And it was actually at points I would feel like we'd just moved out of London and I felt quite lonely, and I'd have this thing where, even, it sounds so ridiculous to say, but we had Tesco's at the end of our road, and if I needed to go and get something, I'd be so panicked walking to Tesco's that I was worried I'd bump into someone. I don't even know where it stemmed from, but I had this really bad kind of like social anxiety problem. I'd be like, James, I can't go in, can you go and get it for me? Wow. It was really quite bad. But if someone said to me, Jess, that's your hormones, I'd be like, absolutely not. Like, I would never have believed it. And then it's only when I was making all these changes, I was cooking from scratch, I wasn't ordering takeaways, I wasn't drinking alcohol, I was sleeping, I was trying to piece things together and heal my body. And then obviously I learned about our neurotransmitters and how, that's why I've got a whole chapter in my book about how to support your mental health.
I'm going to read this book. I'm going to do it.
Yeah, I'll send you a copy.
Accountability is most people's downfall when it comes to reaching health and fitness goals. You've got the gym membership, you've got the best intentions, you know what you want to achieve, but you just can't seem to stay consistent, so you give up or settle for little or no results. My one-to-one coaching is designed to create a specific plan for you to follow with your goals in mind. But with the added bonus of regular check-ins and communication, you will have the accountability you're missing, and therefore no choice but to level up and get it done. So if you're listening to this episode and it's time to level up, hold yourself accountable and get the results you want, I'll give you 20% off my one-to-one coaching. All you have to do is include the word transform in your inquiry form, link in the episode description.
And but it's just so important, you know, like I said before about what we said about the serotonin, your happy hormone, and dopamine being produced. So
you was lacking that. You was really lacking the serotonin and dopamine.
Yeah,
which was causing you anxiety.
Or I was getting my dopamine hit from things like going on Instagram or like ordering a takeaway, staying up till midnight watching films. Like I was just in this. It was actually quite.
So
addictive.
Many people are in that cycle though. TikTok. Boom, 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 boom. I've done it myself.
You get these like hits.
You go on
constantly.
TikTok and the algorithm just shows you funny videos. I've done an hour and a half. I woken up. I couldn't tell you one video I watched.
It's actually annoying as well, isn't it? Like obviously, when none of us are perfect. Like I have times where I'll spend far too long on Instagram, and then I'm like, I'm annoyed with myself. I'm like, Jess, why did I do that? Yeah. But then it's just like, it's a good reminder.
Yeah,
like,
it's a good little reminder.
It's not about being perfect. It's about being mindful and also having a bit of discipline.
Because if you're too perfect as well, I think you can go down the wrong path as well. You can have a bit obsessive relationship with food, with exercise, and we've seen that's not good either.
No, absolutely not. And I think that's really important to highlight as well, because I think it's about finding your happy place, like doing what you can. It does not have to be like down to a T. And I think that being obsessive about things actually creates stress in your body.
Of course.
It's a bit like, this is off topic, but intermittent fasting, and like women that are hormonally imbalanced and are trying to fall pregnant or are trying to just basically trying to balance their bodies and support their, you know, their health generally. I think that fasting is quite possibly, it was like the worst thing I ever did when I was doing it.
It's studies showing it's the worst thing for women.
My cycle was already non-existent for a long time, and then it was very irregular, obviously the PCOS, but the fasting or not eating, or I wasn't even properly fasting, but I was fasting and then having a coffee, and
so you probably was fasting and not having a night, like a lot of people listen to this go, well, I intermittent fast, but at 12 o'clock I have a very nourished, like a very good plate of food. Maybe you weren't doing, you was having a coffee, then you had a little snack.
Back at that point, I didn't even really, intermittent fasting wasn't something that was spoken about. But about 2 years ago, I did an experiment, or maybe about, you know, when that book came out about women fasting, I did an experiment and I shared it on my Instagram, and I did it for a whole month. I properly did it every single morning, just the morning part. Like, and I felt my cycle, not only did I feel like I literally wanted to eat my own arm come lunchtime. I felt like it just impacted my mood, my energy levels. I felt like I didn't want to work out. I didn't want to get up and do my Pilates every morning, which I'm like...
So you're not strengthening your body,
I felt like I was actually making it harder for myself instead of giving my body what it needs.
But like people will be going through breakups. I think I went through a breakup, and it was the toughest time I've ever had to deal with. It was a shock to the system because I always been that cheeky, chappy guy who can always deal with things, blah blah blah. And I struggled to eat, and I was ripped. I went down to 7% body fat. So sometimes being in unbelievable shape doesn't necessarily mean you're happy, right?
Exactly.
Or you're healthy.
Exactly.
A lot of people, I go two ways when it comes to a breakup, right? They either eat too much, go out too much, drink alcohol, or they go on a health journey and maybe don't eat as well. So
it can be so extreme. I think that is the point. Like, it's the extremities of these things. And I think that going back to the fasting thing, it's like, I think women I think sometimes it's like a desirable thing to do because it's like, oh, it gives me a reason not to eat in the morning because I'm sticking to these rules of fasting. And actually, all it does is create, it just amplifies your stress response, and your body is in this like scarcity setting where it's like, it's not going to then prioritize things like your reproductive health. And so, it's going to preserve its energy for you just to be able to be functioning.
My first experience was I was dating a model, and she was told that she wasn't slim enough, but she was already slim. And I was like, Jesus, are they having a laugh? So she restricted her calories. She was intermittent fasting without even realising it. Wasn't eating enough protein. We go to a sushi restaurant, she would just ask for the cucumber sushi. I was like, Jesus Christ. And yes, no libido. She ended up having thrush, for example. Skin problems, hair problems. So, of course, on the modelling shoot, makeup, she looked great, but she was not healthy at all.
Under the surface, she was like...
we struggled, we'd argued about little things because she was in the right place. I knew what was happening. I was a bit younger then, so I probably deal with it differently now.
And it's hard seeing someone that you love or that it's hard to be like, look, don't do this. It has to come from the person.
How was your partner when you went through that? Because obviously he wasn't educated on what was going on at all.
I think it was difficult because I was working from home and he was going into Leicester Square to work. Like, he was going into central London to work, so he wasn't there like a lot of things in terms of like my eating habits in the day. But he was aware of it, and he was always like, he's always very encouraging of like eating properly and like being like, oh, that's not enough, Jess. And I'd be like, no, like, don't tell me what to do. Like, it is really difficult when.
And did that ever, like, did your relationship ever get challenged because of it?
No, I wouldn't say so from that sense. I think it was just...
He's a good man. Where do you
he's such a strong... But no, not in that sense. But what was difficult was when we were struggling to conceive, and I was just in this... just...
Did he also get checked? Because
he did.
Men also need to get checked, right? Their sperm count, sperm quality.
Yeah, it should not just be on the women. It should be like a,
Well, my friend, him and their partner went to have IVF twice. It turned out it was him. He was the problem.
Yeah.
It came down to his lifestyle and his nutrition.
And it's good, I think, for the guy to take responsibility and it not for just to be all on the women, because especially if you're going to have a child together, you're going to, like, having a child, that chapter of your life is going to be a really big one. It's going to be incredible, but it's going to be hard. It's going to it's going to test you. It's going to challenge you.
Well, autism's increased. ADHD's increased, right? And we think, why? For what reason? I guess it might come down to the quality of our sperm or the ovaries or stress levels between us as well. We're the one creating a baby.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm massively like 6 months before you want to have kids, really get into your health, physical health, nutrition, whole foods, stay away from alcohol.
Regulating your nervous system.
And if you want your kids to be geniuses or Spartans or athletes, like, give them the best chance by really taking care of your nutrition and your health beforehand.
And also, it's like setting the example for your children. It's like how you talk. We've got a 4-year-old, and I am always really conscious about how we talk about food in front of him and not saying things like, like how people use... I do it sometimes because
it happens.
Yeah, and they're just crazy sometimes, so you just have to kind of like pick your battles. But overall, I really try not to use sugar or like sweets and things like that as like the prize, as like, if you do this, you're going to get this. Because then I do actually think we have such a huge responsibility in terms of like language around food and our actions. They're like sponges. They literally absorb everything we do.
Massively.
And it's like the thing, like even stuff like, I did a reel on this and I said how I got my 4-year-old to drink herbal tea at night, because we do story time, and the way it all came about is that every evening we do story time, and I'll take a cup of herbal tea up with me, and we sit down and read all the stories. It's a whole thing. It takes ages, but it's like my favourite time of the day.
Nice.
and we're reading books, and I'm drinking my tea. And I didn't say anything to, he's called Sebi.
Yeah.
I didn't say anything to Sebi, like, do you want my tea? But because I was doing it every night, he was like, Mummy, what is that? Can
Yeah.
I have some? And I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, sure, have it. And then I was thinking, please don't make the bed because you're drinking
Yeah.
it. But anyway, I was like, yeah, have it. Because I was thinking it's like anti-inflammatory.
Yeah,
It's
of
going to be a
course,
great
yeah.
thing. And he loved it. It was peppermint and licorice, the pucker one. And then he started saying, Mummy, can I have some? So I'd make him just a little
good.
bit.
Yeah.
And then it became like a little ritual. And I thought, how good is this? Like,
Yeah.
my actions I haven't even said it to him, have
Yeah.
it. But he wants it because he sees his
This
his
is
mummy
it.
doing
This
it.
is
It's
it.
like,
So if he sees you having vegetables, protein, your macronutrient split on your plate is perfect,
yeah.
then it's not a chore for them. They want the same.
It just becomes
Yeah.
normal and natural. And also things like, my friend's got an allotment and I love taking him up there and for him to see how things are growing, and that he's literally picking it from the
So
ground.
education.
Yeah, we go home, we wash
Yeah.
the veg, we make something out of it, he pretends to cut,
Yeah.
and then he feels like he
And
is part of it.
would you ever take him to McDonald's as a treat? Like
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't. Yeah, I wouldn't say I wouldn't make a big thing about it, but I definitely wouldn't stop him from doing it either. So like my husband James, it's really funny. We're so similar in so many ways, but he loves things like McDonald's and Coke and stuff. And so like he eats what I eat, but then he'll also eat these things as well. And I think it's actually good for Sebi to see that, because otherwise I think you make it unattainable and you almost make it like, oh, those foods are bad. Like we don't talk about bad and good foods. I don't like to put them into different categories, because I think then you create a problem.
Well,
in
you could
yourself.
rebel. Your kid could then go to university
Exactly.
and completely rebel.
You see it all the time,
You
don't
see
you?
it a lot, yeah.
And I would hate that. I want him to have a really healthy relationship with food.
Yeah, I think that's so important.
And to just normalise it. Like, they're all foods. Like, these are the foods that we're going to eat. Like, these vegetables and fruit are going to be the basic, and, like, obviously macronutrients, all of that. Like, that is important. That's most important. But these things aren't quote-unquote bad. They're just the things that you have less often. And, and I think that is the same for, obviously, not just children. Like, as we get older, I think I see such extremes of like, oh, you never have chocolate, or never have sugar, or never have this, that, and the other. And I think actually, when you start changing your diet and you're consistently eating well, your taste buds get rewired, and you don't even want those things as much.
Well, it's too sweet anyway. Oh, that's so sweet.
Exactly.
Yeah,
that happened to me. I was like, whoa, it's really been having these sweets for years.
Yeah. Well, when I have a Pepsi Max now, I'm like, because I drink Dash a lot. This ain't a promo or nothing, but I love fizz. And during COVID, I think I was addicted to Pepsi Max. I was having 3 a day just because of some energy levels were low. I loved the fizz. I was always constantly thirsty because I was dehydrated. Pepsi Max, of course, I was doing electrolytes still, but it was like a treat.
Yeah, was that your thing?
Yeah, it was my thing, and I realised this ain't good for my gut. This ain't good for my teeth. This ain't good for my energy levels. I need to cut down. So I found an alternative in like sparkling water with fresh lemon, and then now Dash, which is 0 calories, sparkling mango. Of course, there might be a little bit of sweetness in there, but it's not the end of the world. And it's just so much better.
Yeah, and it's that mindful switch is so impactful, and I think that is it. It's like, if people start doing, I talk about this thing in my book called The Life Audit, and about gaining clarity and being really honest with yourself about your daily habits and the things that maybe have creeped in that you don't realise. And it happens to all of us. Yeah. But being really clear on that, and things like, it might be like you're having 3 coffees, and actually, do you need that second and third one? Because really, it's the first one that tastes the best. Like, do you need those? Could you swap out, like a mushroom coffee?
And you save so much money. If you're going,
exactly.
I just spent £3.70 on a coffee next door. It's like, if I do that 3-4 times a day, it's a lot of money.
Yeah, exactly. And the same with takeaways as well. Like, if you're not ordering in all the time and you're just doing more home cooking, it doesn't have to be stuff that takes forever. But if
I think what people struggle with, they go to the supermarket, spend, let's say, these days it's like 200 quid for your weekly shop now. They struggle with that 200 quid. They happily do 20 quid here, 20 quid there, 20 quid there. But at the end of the month, you've done 300 quid.
It's so true. Whereas if you actually just, and also people, it's difficult, isn't it? There's lots of different people listening that have different lifestyles. And some people listening might be like, yeah, but I work in the city and it's just not. And I think actually I have so many clients that work in the city, have high-powered jobs, who travel, who live in different countries, have children, have all sorts of different situations. But it still goes back to the fundamentals of like, gaining clarity on what it is that you want, how much do you want this, because there is a way to, it doesn't mean it's going to be like, you should never compare yourself to someone else's health journey, but what is the best that we can do for you with what you have available to you?
100%.
Even if it was like make one meal from scratch from home, it's better than not doing that and eating out three of those meals out, like making one from home.
Well, if you throw them in a deep end, for them there'll be a deep end. They're going to be like, this is too much, I can't do it. Where if you slowly help them progress.
Exactly.
And meal prepping for me is key. A lot of my clients struggle, but by the end of the transformation, it's non-negotiable.
Yeah.
one, they're saving money, two, they're eating better, and three, it's a sense of achievement because they see their friends coming in with Leon or prep,
Yeah.
and they're eating with their meal prep, and it's healthy, nutritious, and they're glowing.
It is the best. I agree.
It's
That's
a sense
my
of achievement,
thing.
isn't it?
It's like my non-negotiable.
Yeah.
Like I'll do on a Sunday
of
or a
course.
Monday. I'll do like at least one batch, but usually it's like one batch and then maybe
Well,
some like a few little snacks. And stuff.
Netflix from 7 to 10 p.m. you could watch 3 episodes. I've done it recently with The Jackal, a really good series. But I could have just watched 2 in an hour to meal prep for the next 2 days.
Yeah.
So it's priorities as well.
But that's it. I think that is so true. When it's up to you what you decide to prioritize in your life,
Of
and
course.
I think sometimes when people complain about their health and they complain they haven't got any time, and yes, some people might be very time poor and have lots of responsibilities, but you can still make a few little switches.
Have a conversation with myself, yourself, and we can help you.
Yeah,
for sure.
literally.
Because I've got clients who said exactly the same thing 10 months ago, and they're in an incredible place. But I'm just changing this. I can't eat breakfast anymore. No, I want to make a healthy smoothie. Not the best in the world. I'd rather you have eggs, avocado, sourdough, blah, blah, blah. But we're going to have a healthy smoothie. But it'll be chia seeds, flax seeds in there.
Pack all the stuff in.
Packed all the stuff in there. It's not just going to be a Slimming World protein shake like back in the day women used to do. It's going to have whey protein in there. It's going to have a little bit of creatine in there. It's going to have fibres in there. It's going to have some fats in there. Perfect.
And also, that's perfect for people that are so busy and they need to just grab that.
Exactly.
I say the same to my clients.
And then the night before you've meal prep, or you might meal prep some overnight oats. You go into the office and you eat that overnight oats. Night before you meal prep your salad or your stir fry, you can heat up in the microwave, you can eat it cold, brilliant. You come home, really important, you and your husband, put some tunes on, cook together, for example.
And it's like a bonding thing as well.
Sit down, have a nice meal, you talk about the day. I think that's really important for your social health, another pillar we talk about. And then in the evening, you want a little bit of a snack, get your high protein skyr yogurt, which has obviously got prebiotics in, or you can add kefir in there, add some manuka honey, add some berries, add one slice of dark chocolate. That's going to prevent you from eating a whole bar of chocolate.
Yeah, so
you still got your chocolate fix.
Or like I love the date. I like a date with a bit of like cashew butter or peanut butter, a little bit of sea salt.
Yeah, exactly.
And like that, even just that, or like with a few blueberries or something, and you make a cup of tea and you make it special for yourself. I always think like these things, like instead of just standing in the kitchen like wolfing it down, actually if you like put it in a little nice little thing,
of course.
you sit down and you turn it into, you can make things quite ritualistic and then it feels really good in your body.
Everyone listen to this. They've seen those videos on TikTok. They've seen those videos on Instagram. Give it a go. Try it.
Yeah,
try these little hacks.
And then also just tune into how you feel.
Yeah.
And I think it's that after feeling of your body's communicating with you all the time and giving you feedback. And it's our job to listen to what our bodies are telling us. And I think that's sometimes the missing link, that we just forget that actually the answers are within us and it's in our control to make changes.
Yeah, of course it is. 100% it is. 100%. The conversation's been amazing. I say the health is the key to success. We always end the conversation in what do you think is the key to success?
I think the key to success is getting clear on what makes you happy and how you want to feel. Because I think when you understand that and when you start feeling that, everything else kind of like falls into place. And I think to do that is to do something like the life audit thing I said, or just literally writing down like what your habits are and what you want to change. But I think the key to success is feeling calm. You know, that saying I love is the measure of true success is a calm nervous system, and I think that is so key. So maybe that should be my one.
I love that. We'll end on that one. It's been amazing having you on the podcast. We'll get you on again, and let's have a good 2025.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for having me.
Pleasure.